Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, text number 14. Karmashayam hridaya granthi bandham avidyaya sadhitam apramatthah anena yogena yathopadesham samyak vyapohyo parameta yogat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means you will be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruitive activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The process of liberation is Brahma Jignasa, the search for the absolute truth. Generally, Brahma Jignasa is called Neti Neti, the process by which one analyzes existence to search out the absolute truth. This method continues as long as one is not situated in his spiritual life. Spiritual life is brahma-bhuta, the self-realized state. In the words of Bhagavad Gita, brahma-bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati samahas sarveshu bhuteshu mad-bhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. The idea is to enter into the para-bhakti, the transcendental devotional service of the Supreme Lord. To attain this, one must analyze one's existence. But when one is actually engaged in devotional service, he should not bother seeking out knowledge. By simply engaging in devotional service undeviatingly, one will always remain in the liberated condition. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitya itan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. The unflinching execution of devotional service is in itself brahma-bhuta. Another important feature in this connection is anena yogena yathopadesham. The instructions received by the spiritual master must be followed immediately. One should not deviate from or surpass the instructions of the spiritual master. One should not be simply intent on consulting books, but should simultaneously execute the spiritual master's order, yathopadesham. Mystic power should be achieved to enable one to give up the material conception. But when one actually engages in devotional service, one does not need to practice the mystic yoga system. The point is that one can give up the practice of yoga, but devotional service cannot be given up. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgrantya Pyurukrame Kurvantya Haitu Kim Bhaktim Ittam Bhuta Guno Harihi. Even those who are liberated, Atma Rama, must always engage in devotional service. One may give up the practice of yoga when one is self-realized, but at no stage can one give up devotional service. All other activities for self-realization, including jnana, including yoga and philosophical speculation, may be given up, but devotional service must be retained at all times. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So we are reading Rishabhadeva's teachings to his sons. So my dear sons, he is advising them. And in today's verse, he is saying, Karmashayam hridaya granthi bandham avidyaya sadhitam. There is so much talk about hridaya granthi in these instructions of Rishabhadeva to his sons. Hridaya granthi, not in the heart, which bandham, which binds the living entity to this material world, and that results in karma ashayam, desire and hopes and ambitions for enjoying the results of one's activities in this material world. Karma ashayam, hridaya granthim bandham. And how is this brought about? Avidyaya asaditam. Avidyaya asaditam. This desire to enjoy the activities, the results of one's activities, is brought about by avidyaya asaditam. It is brought about by ignorance. And what is that ignorance? Ignorance of ourself, who we are, and we think we are the body, we think we belong to this world, we belong to this society, and this avidya, actually we are not the body, we don't belong to this world, and this avidya asaditam brings about this hridaya karma ashayam, desires for enjoying the results of our activities in this world. My body, after all, my intelligence, my mind, and I have used all these things and I have acted in this world, and the result is for my pleasure, for my enjoyment. This is the understanding, and that such enjoyment binds the living entity to this material world. Because sense pleasures are addictive. We again and again want to go back to those experiences of pleasure, sense pleasures. And that way we get more and more implicated in karma, and the living entity remains in this world, birth after birth. And so Rishabhadeva is saying, Anena yogena apramattaha yathopadesham. Anena yogena yathopadesham apramattaha. He has used the word apramattaha. Mattha means to be intoxicated, drunken. When somebody gets boozed with alcohol, then his sight will be blurred, his thinking will be blurred, his drunken state. That is mattha. And pramattha means fully drunken. So much he is in such a drunken state. And apramattaha means fully attentive, fully careful, very careful. That's why Prabhupada has used the word apramattaha, not being covered by ignorance or illusion. That is one aspect. Another aspect is very careful. So this is actually our position. We are covered by illusion. We are covered by ignorance. We are under the spell of ignorance. Just like if somebody gets drunk, he will come under the spell of alcohol. His thinking, his perception, his analysis, his conclusions, everything he will be bewildered. So, in our present situation, the way we are in this material world, thinking that I am the body. Whole life we keep thinking I am the body. I belong to this family. I belong to this nation. And till one day our life ends and we move on and we give up this body. So, Rishabhadeva has given many instructions, especially in the previous 4 verses, beginning with Hamse Guru. Please approach a spiritual master who is a Paramahamsa. This is the advice of the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. One should approach a Paramahamsa spiritual master, very elevated spiritual master, who is not under such illusion and ignorance, and so he can show the right path. He can help us come out of this ignorance. And avidyaya saditam. And importantly, this avidya that is being spoken about, you cannot come out of that avidya by scholarship. It is a much more deeper cleansing of the ignorance. It's not just scholarship, knowing Shastras this way, that way, analyzing arguments. You will see that further explained by Rishabhadeva and by Srila Prabhupada. So, apramattaha, very carefully practice this, my dear sons. Anayena yogena yathopadesham, yatha upadesham, as I have advised you, please practice that. And then if you do that, what happens? Samyak vyapohya. Vyapohya means becoming free from. You become free from what? From hridaya granthi bandham. You become free from avidyaya. And samyak vyapohya. Vyapoha means to give up, to come out of. Samyak vyapohya. This is a process which will completely take us out of ignorance and free us from hridaya granthi bandham. And then Rishabhadeva has given one instruction which looks little perplexing. Uparametha yogat. Yogat uparametha. And you give up yoga also. So what does that mean? So let's see how Prabhupada explains. As I have advised you, yathopadesham, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Anena yogena yathopadesham. Be very careful. Apramattaha. By these means, you will be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruitive activity. You will be freed, vyapohya, from the ignorance, avidyaya, of the desire for fruitive activity, karmashayam, and the knot of bondage in the heart, hridaya granthim, will be completely severed, samyak vyapohya. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. Yogat uparametha. Uparametha to give up, to desist. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself. So, Prabhupada explains this. We should understand this little carefully. Very nicely, Prabhupada has explained in the purport two words which in Krishna consciousness we discuss commonly quite often, as Prabhupada has taught us. The two expressions are brahma-jigyasa and brahma-bhuta. Brahma-jigyasa means to do jigyasa, to inquire. To inquire about the highest truth, to inquire about spiritual matters. And by doing that inquiry, one should come to the right conclusion of brahma-bhuta, becoming situated in a spiritual platform, on a spiritual platform. Being situated on a spiritual platform means what? To be situated on the material platform means to think that I am the body. I am a man. I must enjoy my senses in this way. I have these senses. This is a material platform activity. And brahma-bhuta means, no, I am not this material body. I am not this mind. I am not this intelligence. This cementing of my understanding of myself with the body, with the mind and the intelligence is brought about by the eighth element described by Krishna in the Gita, ahankara. That's why it is called ahamkara. It creates that aham. Aham means self, myself. It creates a sense of aham, ahamkara. And it creates a sense of aham, myness, or myself. In terms of Panchabhuta body, in terms of the mind, in terms of the intelligence. But the truth is, aparemitastva anyam prakrutim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Actually, the fact is that although this body is made of 8 elements, there is a 9th element. And that 9th element is apart from these 8 elements. And the 9th element is para-prakriti. And whose para-prakriti? Krishna's para-prakriti. Even the apara-prakriti is Krishna's. Krishna describes bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha ahankaram me binna prakritirashtadha. That is also my prakriti. And aparemitastva anyam prakritim vidhi me param. Apart from these 8 elements, separated material, inferior prakriti, there is another one which is anyat. It is different from, apart from. It is not a combination of these 8 elements will result in the 9th. No, 9th one is a separate category of existence, separate category of prakriti, and that is also my prakriti. And jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. And that jiva bhuta is that 9th element, and that's what we are. So this understanding is the spiritual plane. And when one is well established and situated that this is what I am, that's called brahma-bhuta stage. And how do we know somebody is in a brahma-bhuta stage? It must show in his activities. Na shochati, na kankshati. He is not hankering for something, some enjoyment, some pleasure, some situation in this world. Na shochati, nor is he lamenting about something that is lost or something that is not available. That is called brahma-bhuta. And he is prasannatma. He is always joyful. This is the symptom. We don't have to worry, how do I know this? Prabhupada says, just like a rich man is known by his symptoms, a healthy man is known by his symptoms, a learned man can be known by his symptoms. A learned man is not discovered unless he speaks. Or even for that matter, a foolish man is not discovered till he speaks. When he speaks, you can make out, hey, what is he speaking? Silly things he's speaking. So, a learned man has symptoms, a healthy man has symptoms, a rich man has symptoms. In the same way, somebody who is on a spiritual platform has symptoms, and the symptoms are prasannatma, na shochati, na kankshati, samah sarveshu bhuteshu, and in that state, mad bhaktim labhate param. In that state of spiritual position, he attains my transcendental devotional service. So, now coming back to this, Brahma Jigyasa, it is, many times Prabhupada mentions this, it goes by the process of what is called neti. Neti. Neti means na iti. Na iti. Na iti. First understanding, who am I? Am I this body? Na iti. No, I am not the body. Am I the mind? Na iti. No, I am not the mind. Am I the intelligence? No, I am not the intelligence. Am I part of this world? No. I give up this world and go somewhere. I was thinking it is me, my world, my nation, my country, my city, my state, my home. But I give up and go, na iti. You see, this is a process of philosophically understanding and rejecting that this is not what I am. We have to know ourselves, isn't it? If we don't know ourselves, what is the big knowledge that we have? We should know who we are. And so, the philosophical process of naiti, this is called Brahma Jigyasa. Who am I? Who am I? I must understand. When I was young, I looked like this, like a schoolboy. I looked like this when I was in college. Now I have become, in future I will become older. Who am I? Who is going through all these changes in the body, changes in the mind also? This is called Brahma Jigyasa, and it should lead to brahma-bhuta. Understanding that I am a part of that spiritual particle, spiritual energy, and this is all belonging to Krishna. It's not just enough that we understand who I am spirit soul. That's only part of it. That's called self-realization. Self-realization should lead to God realization. It's just like saying, oh, now I am understanding the sunshine. Sunshine is bright, it has light, it has warmth. Now I am understanding the sunshine. That's only a partial understanding. Next understanding is that the sunshine is coming from where? It is coming from the sun. There is a relation between the sunshine and the sun. Sun is the source of the sunshine. In the same way, understanding that I am a spiritual particle, self-realization is partial. Further understanding is, I am belonging to Krishna. First of all, The fact is that we exist. If you have a doubt whether I exist, you can pinch yourself and see, yeah, I exist. I exist, the world exists. Why does the world exist? Why do I exist? It could have been nothing existing, but I exist. And objectively the world exists. We all can say, what is this world is? We all will describe, yes, the world exists. It's not just the world is in my mind. When I look at it, the world appears. When I turn away, the world goes away. No, it is not. Even if I turn away, the world exists. You can certify that. You will testify that. So the world exists and I exist. Why do I exist? Instead of not existing, instead of the world not existing, something exists. The very fact that something exists indicates that there is a source for this something. The very fact that sunshine exists implies there is sun. The very fact that we exist, the world exists, indicates that there is a source from which we have all come. And what is that source? We may say, no, I came from my parents. Actually, that biological source, identifying the source, it doesn't go very far because where did your father come, parents come from? They're from grandparents, grandparents, great-grandparents. You can make a list, that's all. Where does it start? You cannot make out by speculative knowledge. In the same way the world exists, in terms of certain causes and effects, you analyze. Where does it? It doesn't go beyond a certain point. Now, by our speculative methods, we cannot know. We have to take knowledge from the revealed scriptures, where the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, Vedic literature say that Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matthas Sarvam Pravartate. There is a source. And that source is the absolute source, ultimate source. And that ultimate source is speaking the Bhagavad Gita, saying, I am a person and from me comes all this. So this is brahma-bhuta. Now for understanding, coming to the spiritual platform and understanding the source of all these things, and then once we understand that Krishna is the source, then we should next realize and experience, I have a relation with the source. The relationship is of service and of loving service, devotional service. And to become situated in that devotional service, and in that state, if one can achieve that state, irrevocably, one can situate oneself in that state of relationship, of devotional service to that source, ultimate source. Then in that consciousness, when this phenomena called death happens, that soul who is in that state will immediately go back to be with Krishna. That's what Krishna says, Mameti. Aprapyaman nivartante. That means one should mam prapya, one should attain me. That's what Krishna is saying in the Gita again and again. So that soul will go and attain Krishna, to be with Krishna. Nivasisyasi mayeva, nivasishyasi mayeva, to go and live with Krishna. So this is a long path. And for that, and this whole process has to be done very carefully. There's a verse in the, Prabhupada often quoted this verse from the Katha Upanishad, which talks about careful practice of spiritual life. Sometimes people ask the question, why did somebody know that Prabhu was there, 30 years he did devotional service and he fell down? What happened? Why did that happen? Or some questions like that come up. So the answer is here. Prabhupada quotes this verse from the Katha Upanishad. In that famous address that Prabhupada made in Gaudiya Math in Bombay in 1936, he quotes this verse. Uttishtatha jagrata prapya varan nibodhatha. Uttishtatha jagrata prapya varan nibodhata. Nibodhana means to deliberate, to reflect, to carefully consider. Sometimes some things we don't carefully consider. We don't pay attention, apply our mind, apply our intelligence and analyze something. So this verse in the Katha Upanishad is saying, please carefully analyze and consider. What? Prapya varan nibodhata. What a boon you have got in this human form of life. Varan prapya. Vara means a boon. Prapya means we have attained, achieved. Uttishta jagrata prapya varan nibodhata. Uttishthata, arise. Jagrata, awake. Actually that famous, unfortunately, the famous statement of Vivekananda he took from here only. But he turned it into something else. Some other mundane, not brahma-bhuta understanding. Some other understanding. Okay. Kshurasya dhara nishitha duratyaya. Kshurasya. Kshurati means to shave. Kshurasya dhara. Dhara means edge. The razor's edge. Nishitha means sharp. Kshurasya dhara nishitha duratyaya. One has to be very careful when you're using a sharp razor. If you're not careful, there will be blood. In the same way, in spiritual life, one has to be very careful. Just like you can't be careless. We don't allow a small child to play with a sharp knife. We'll say, hey, be careful. Take knife from the child's hand. So in the same way, here Rishabhadeva is saying, apramattaha, be very careful in this spiritual practice. Maya comes in different ways and captures. And once Maya captures, then forces of karma will come into action, and then smruti vibramaha, smruti buddhinasha, all that will happen. So in the very beginning, dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu upajayate. Be very careful dealing with vishaya, indriya vishaya, the objects of senses of the five senses. So if we dhyayataha, if we contemplate on the objects of senses, then we will develop attachment to that. So first step, do not indulge, do not contemplate on the objects of senses. See, all the instructions are given. We have to hear, anena yogena yatopadesham, yatha upadesham. We have to follow. If we follow this, it is possible to become brahma-bhuta, to become situated on a spiritual plane and come to a stage when one becomes nishtha and one is not disturbed. Prasannatma. So this is all possible. But it requires careful practice. That is why it is said apramattaha. And then this verse from Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya durgam patastat kavayo vadanti. This path is difficult path. It is difficult path if one is not determined. If one is determined, if one is very sincere, then it is an easy path. So simple. Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna, 4 regulative principles. Over. See? Please wake up and try to understand the boon which you now have in this human form of life. The path of spiritual realization is very difficult. Duratyaya. It is sharp like a razor's edge. That is the opinion of learned transcendental scholars. Kavayo vadanti. Next. Coming to this point about yogat uparametha. So, there are certain processes that are recommended. Now, first of all, it may shock us, right? When you read this verse, yogat uparametha, you should give up the yoga. What is this? Actually, we should not be surprised. We should little carefully understand. Krishna also said, Sarva dharman parityajya. Give up all dharma. Sometimes people get confused. Hey, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To establish dharma I come, Krishna said. And then Krishna is saying, give up dharma. Not just give up dharma, give up all dharma. Sarva dharman parityajya. Because there are many methods. When somebody is not ready to surrender to Krishna, one is not ready to accept Krishna's position, who will give different arguments and desist from surrendering to Krishna, different other methods are given so that they can gradually progress. But if one is able to take up this direct process, then all those things are not required, they are not relevant, we can give it up. That is the idea. And particularly, 2 different methods are identified here by Srila Prabhupada. Here, let's see this. The idea is to enter into the parabhakti. This is the whole idea. Parabhakti means transcendental bhakti. To be situated on a transcendental plane, because only on the transcendental plane you can actually make contact with Krishna, because he is a transcendental person. So, the idea is to enter into parabhakti, the transcendental devotional service of the Supreme Lord. To attain this, one must analyze one's existence. Hey, what am I? Am I this body? But when one is actually engaged in devotional service, if one has done that analysis and understood that I am brahma-bhuta, I am a spirit soul, and I should be engaged in devotional service, then but when one is actually engaged in devotional service, he should not bother seeking out knowledge. By simply engaging in devotional service undeviatingly, one will always remain in the liberated condition. So, the knowledge helps. But if one is situated in transcendental devotional service, then that neti jnana, that can be given up. That does not mean we won't have knowledge when somebody is situated in bhakti. He is enriched with knowledge. But he will not simply be attached to scholarship and acquiring different knowledge. There was one scholar during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. He was a Brahmana. His name was Tapan Mishra. He used to live in Kashi. very learned scholar. He had read lot of books. He was recognized as a scholar. But after all that scholarship, he could not find out what was the ultimate goal. And he meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatan Goswami, he is sitting next to him and he is also hearing. So, Tapan Mishra's situation, what was his situation is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In that context, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Tapan Mishra was such a person, he was Bahu Shastre, Bahu Vakye, Chitta Brahmaya. He had read lot of Shastra. Bahu Shastre, Bahu Vakye. Lot of interpretations, analysis, all that, statements made by so many people, he had read. And because of all these things, Chitte Brahmaya. His consciousness, he had become bewildered, Brahma. And because of Brahma, what was the result? This is so very, very carefully, so nicely analyzed, these things in our Shastra. Because Chitte Brahmahaya Sadhya Sadhana Shreshta Nahaya Nishchaya. He could not ascertain Sadhya Sadhana Shreshta. Sadhya means what is the objective, what is achieved. Sadhana is the means for such achievement. What is Shreshta? What is the highest? Sadhana Sadhya Shreshta Nahaya Nishchaya. He could not ascertain correctly. Chitta Brahmehaya. This is what happens when somebody becomes a big scholar. And see the purport, Prabhupada writes in a very translation and the purport. If one becomes a bookworm lives in the book always. Reading many books and scriptures and hearing many commentaries and the instructions of many men, this will produce doubt within his heart. One cannot in this way ascertain the real goal of life. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Granthan na eva abhyaset bahun. This is Prabhupada is quoting from the Srimad Bhagavatam in the purport. Bahun granthan na abhyaset. Don't read too many books. Na vyakhyam upayunjita. And so many vyakhyana will be there, so many explanations will be there. One should not read many books, nor should one try to make a profession of reciting many books, especially if one is a devotee. One must give up the ambition to be a learned scholar. This is what we should give up. Uparamet, yogat. I should become a jnani. I should become a jnani. Well, not learned. We should be learned in spiritual books. We'll come to that. One must give up the ambition to be a learned scholar and in this way earn a worldly reputation. Everybody will say, very big scholar he is. It's nice, no? See, again we are getting trapped. By reading the Shastra, we are again getting trapped in reputation. All this reputation, all these things is Ichcha, Dvesha, Samuttena, Dvandva Mohena Bharata. You see? This is Dvandva Moha. Reputation, no reputation. We should not care. See, our Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada has taught, really purifying us to bring us to that spiritual platform. You see? So, one must give up the ambition to be a learned scholar and in this way earn a worldly reputation and financial facilities. When somebody says he's a big scholar, they'll give you so many other benefits, some dakshina, some many material benefits, all those things they'll give you. Don't be carried away by those things. If one diverts his attention to studying many books, he cannot fix his mind in devotional service, nor can he understand many scriptures, for they are full of grave statements and meanings. Shastras are full of grave statements and meanings. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura gives his opinion that those who are attracted to studying many kinds of literature concerning various subject matters, especially fruitive activities and philosophical speculation, are deprived of unalloyed devotional service because of their splayed attention. Bahusha kahyanantascha buddhayo avyavasainam. Their attention is splayed. It is broken up into many, many, many things. On the other hand, we should have one attention. A living entity thus splayed. Man has a general tendency towards fruitive activities, religious ritualistic ceremonies, and philosophical speculation. A living entity thus bewildered since time immemorial does not understand the real goal of life, and thus his activities in life are wasted. Innocent persons misled in this way are deprived of unalloyed Krishna bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Tapan Mishra is a vivid example of such a person. Tapan Mishra is a vivid example of such a person. He was a learned scholar, but he could not ascertain what the goal of life is. Therefore, he was given a chance to hear Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing Sanatan Goswami. Lord Chaitanya's instruction to Tapan Mishra is especially significant for persons who loiter here and there, collecting books and reading none of them, thus becoming bewildered regarding the aim of life. So, this kind of a scholarship one should not be attached to, one should give up. And another thing that Prabhupada talks about is one should not be simply intent on consulting books, but should simultaneously execute the spiritual master's order. This is first point. Second, mystic power should be achieved to enable one to give up the material conception, but when one actually engages in devotional service, one does not need to practice the mystic yoga system. Yoga system, Ashtanga yoga system, it also has a certain stage. It will bring us to the realization of Paramatma. And then one has to make further progress after coming to the realization of Paramatma to understand Bhagavan. This is what Krishna talks about in the 12th chapter of the Gita. We don't have time today. Another occasion we will analyze this, how Krishna says, this is better than this is better than this, and then Krishna says, this is the best. And so he sets up an indirect process and a direct process. The indirect process is suitable for those who cannot take the direct process, but for those who have taken the direct process, the indirect process is not essential, it can be given up. That is what Rishabhadeva is saying. He is recommending a direct process to his sons. And the Bhagavatam's recommendation is the direct process. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.